Hi there people and welcome back to the leak, and it's time to get started on the pile of Apple II. In the pile we have two computers. There are an Apple II Euro Plus and an Apple IIe, and they're in a fairly good shape. But there are some issues to address, and there's also a few quite rare accessories or items in the pile that we might want to take a closer look at. We'll try to get color images out of these machines, and in a PAL country it's not as easy as it might sound. And we'll also go on a hunt for floppy disks. The oldest computer in the pile is an Apple II Euro Plus. That was given to me quite recently by a good friend of mine. And this model was fairly rare in Sweden. It has a display and it has a couple of floppy drives, so it should be a fairly useful setup when we get it running. But this first episode will be all dedicated to the Apple IIe. And this was given to me it must be 18 years ago now, when I was a technician in a municipality nearby. And this is not me. This is a clip from a 2004 comedy documentary about discrimination against orcs in the workplace. And this hunk is yours truly. The Apple IIe was featured in this movie, and dear Schumbag had a lot of issues writing on the Swedish keyboard because we couldn't get hold of Orkian keyboards. Well, here it is. It's in all its glory, as I usually say. The display is working fine, and it has an 80-column card, which most Apple IIes had at the time. And this is one of the later Apple IIes, the international NTSC version. The video signal that comes out of this computer is a weird combination made by this little chip of 50 Hz video with an NTSC color signal on top of it. And it's only designed to work really with the Apple color monitor, and on a PAL TV it should generate a black and white image. But the weirdness doesn't stop there. Distinguishing between a PAL and NTSC color signal is usually made with assumptions based on what frequencies are being used. Apple seem to have decided on a color carrier that is fairly far off the NTSC color carrier, because if they had just taken 50 Hz and an NTSC color carrier on it, it could have been misinterpreted as a PAL-N signal often used in the South American countries. So this carrier frequency results in a black and white image on the TV, and it can only be used on an Apple II monitor. But with a little device that could convert the NTSC to NTSC, and stupid enough not to make any sanity checks on the signal, I might be able to get an NTSC signal that is... I'm not sure where I'm going with this sentence. Hey, we got color! We got color like San Francisco in the 70s. But at least it's color. What we're seeing here is that this little device is interpreting it as NTSC, which is correct, but the subcarrier is so out of phase so that over the course of the line, we will actually rotate the color phase so much that it looks like a rainbow effect on the picture. I thought it looked quite nice. The trick to fix this is to change the color carrier crystal on the board. And this is the old one. I'll replace it with another one that would, in essence, create a standard NTSC subcarrier. And in some sources on the internet, you can find that this will actually convert it to 60 Hz. And this is bull something. It's going to be 50 Hz, but with an NTSC standard subcarrier. And now we're getting this weird effect. It looks like the color phase is alternating for each line. Right. But at least we're getting 20 milliseconds per frame. That's 50 Hz. And we now have an NTSC 3.579545 MHz subcarrier on it. And this is actually called NTSC-N. It's an unofficial standard because it's so close to PAL-N, so it's too difficult for the screen to distinguish between the two. So we get the result we just saw. Now, if I only had some converter device that was badly enough designed to actually detect this incorrectly, then I might be able to... Right. Well, this will do for now. I suppose in the future I might want to see if I can get the IOU chip in the computer to actually run on 60 Hz, and that would give this result probably, because it would be a standard NTSC signal, but we'll see about that. So 15 years after I got this computer, I decided I might want a floppy drive as well, and I managed to find one at a fair price, although there are two minor issues. First, it doesn't work, and secondly, it doesn't fit. So yeah, it has this controller card that it was actually designed with a 19-pin DB connector for the Unidisc drives, but from Apple to Heaven or a2heaven.com, I was able to find, oh, nice badge. I'll have that one on the computer. I actually managed to find, where it is, there it is, an adapter from 19-pin DB to 20-pin IDC connector. So electrically they should be compatible. And the second best thing in this package was this card, actually. I like cards. I've been there. Nice. I'm also a radio amateur, and part of that hobby is to collect cards from various places in the world, so totally my thing. Let's plug in the adapter and see what happens. I have absolutely no floppy disks for the Apple II. I have a few for the Commodore, and I have some empty ones so far. But I can use this Apple disk server on the internet. It's basically a sound library that you... sound files that you play into the tape port of the Apple II. And you can choose between format and no format. You just type load from a basic prompt, put a floppy disk into the drive, and you play the sound file. And it'll start up a program called Instadisk, which is a disk imaging program. And it will read the data from the sound and write it to the disk. But all I'm getting is this disk error. So there are quite a bit of troubleshooting to do. First, we'll adjust the speed of the spindle. And I'm filming at 60 frames per second, and now I'm even filming at 240 frames per second. And this is how it should look when it's all good. The Apple II floppy drives, compared to, for example, a Commodore 1541, these drives are very simple in its design. It's basically a matter of amplifying a read, amplifying a write, and creating some sort of erase signal. So there's not much circuitry to troubleshoot. And the service manual gives you some good hints on what to start with. Now, I didn't really have any Apple II disks available to see if the drive could read properly. I knew it couldn't write properly, so there was a hint there already. And I connected up an oscilloscope to the machine. And we're basically talking about two chips that could be a problem. It's the write amplifier here, and we have the read amplifier there. And there is also an erase circuitry here along this line. But I do believe that this is probably a matter of write issues. I connected up the oscilloscope, which is a very useful tool for everything, as you can tell. The read signal looked like this on a Commodore disk. And when I tried to format the erase signal, I actually created some 12-volt impulses like this, and that looks very consistent. And the write signal, after each erase cycle, there should be some sort of write burst. This didn't happen. So I would just assume that the write amplifier is the chip that we need to replace to see. And this is art, and you can purchase it through my agent at the Louvre. This is not art, this is a square wave. Anyway, the write amplifier, plug it in, and we'll see if it makes any difference. Well, that's a healthy noise. Nice. Yeah, so it seems to be formatting okay. All we need to see now is if it can receive the data from the sound file and if it actually reads or verifies the disk correctly after each write session. Yes, excellent. Fast forwarding to the end. Let's see, the sound file has 4 seconds left. 3, 2, 1. And this should be the end. And we'll see if it boots up. This is supposed to be the ProDOS 3.4. That should start with the file browser and everything. Yeah, that works. That works. I'm okay with this result. So that concludes the episode about the Apple IIe so far. We'll probably revisit it in the future. But so far, I think we have a fairly working setup for this one. For the Apple II Euro Plus, we have some issues that we need to tend to that might be a bit more of a challenge. And we also need to get hold of some floppy disks. I actually did. Got 50 of these. Still in this plastic from, I think, from 86. Never used. But the problem with floppy disks that have been sitting for so long is that you can't really trust them. But I have a remedy for it. And we'll go through that also in a future episode. So stay tuned and thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and I hope to see you later.